Welcome to Explain America. I'm your host, Kyle Becker. Well, Queen Letitia is not happy. The New York Attorney General just suffered a devastating blow to her plot to get Trump. And she is having the kind of meltdown that you'd expect coming from this character. But before we get into that, please like, share, and comment Explain America. We appreciate your support for common sense journalism. Now, New York Attorney General Letitia James has had it out for Donald Trump since the first time she was a blip on the national radar. Now, she worked her way up through the ranks in New York, rabble-rousing and making big boasts, how she was going to nail Donald Trump and bring cases against her. Now, of course, this is all a huge red flag that the New York voters ignored because you're not supposed to go after and prosecute people. You're supposed to have evidence of crimes, and you're supposed to follow that evidence where it leads. And if somebody needs to be prosecuted, then that's when you prosecute them. You don't go on a political campaign trail and say you're going to get somebody. That's insane. That's like third world politics stuff. But I guess that stuff flies in New York since it's a failed state. But Letitia James finally got her instant karma. Finally saw her house of cards collapse around her head. And now she's left to pick up the pieces and drag herself to the appeals court where, well, it's looking pretty grim. Because on Thursday, an appellate court in New York, a panel of 5 judges, collectively came to the conclusion that her ask to hit Trump with what turned out to be ultimately a $500 million fine, well, that's unconstitutional because it violates the 8th Amendment. The 8th Amendment, yeah, that's the one we don't usually hear about, but you're not allowed to have egregious penalties against people like that and to take things without due process. So essentially, this whole case that she meant where she was just going to try to bankrupt Trump and make it so he can't operate his businesses in New York, this vindictive vendetta by Letitia James is going to be squished. They're going to squish Tish in the appellate court. So it's very interesting, and I think that one of the best judges, his name was Stephen Friedman, really took her to task and dropped the hammer on her and essentially wanted the case thrown out completely. And unfortunately, the judges as a whole didn't agree with him, but the totality of the court said that it was unconstitutional. Now, James, of course, is a glutton for punishment, so she said she's going to appeal the decision so she can continue her crusade to go after Trump. I mean, what else does she have? She doesn't really have anything of her own merit. I mean, everything is just done in the light of Trump, and that just shows you she's a very weak character. She's an empty suit, as they used to say, an empty pantsuit. I think Hillary Clinton would get that allusion. So here's what she said. Quote, "The First Department today affirmed the well-supported finding of the trial court. Donald Trump, his company, and 2 of his children are liable for fraud," unquote. And she continued to rail against this decision, and she is not really convincing anyone of anything except that she's a blowhard and that this case was flimsy and flawed from the beginning because nobody could tell you who the victims of the case was. So it was ridiculous. Trump went in front of the court and basically proved that the banks had no problem with him, that the valuation of his real estate was fine with all of the lenders, and everyone in the entire chain, and including expert witness that Judge Engeron wouldn't even allow testify, was essentially saying that there is no there with this case. But that didn't matter because Tish had to get her scalp. And that's all this was about right before the 2024 election. And guess what? That didn't turn out so well, did it? Because everybody saw what you were doing, Tish. We saw what was going on with Fani Willis in Georgia. How did that case turn out? And there were other, the ditzy E. Jean Carroll in her ridiculous case. I mean, you examine that one. You want to talk about ludicrous. I mean, based on a Law and Order episode, it looks like. I mean, come on. Let's get serious here. So all of these lawfare cases have fallen apart, and not even Tish James can put it back together again. So Oh, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles, Tish. I guess you're going to have to find a real job now that you don't have Trump to really go after now. I mean, I guess you can continue to try and still lose. That's not really good for your career. I suggest humbly that you do something about fixing your broken state, because New York is a disaster zone. You should put orange cones around New York because it is a disaster. And if Mom Donnie gets in to be the mayor of New York City, well, you guys are cooked. You guys are cooked. Like, you guys will be like a third world country, okay? Because you will not have enough money to do everything that you want to do, and you will be chasing people out of the state and trying to claw it back in, and it's just going to be another wreck. I think that's what you radicals actually want. You want to destroy your own states and destroy the cities of the United States because you're kind of demented and twisted like that. I've been in on your little, socialist shindigs that you guys do. You guys are pretty crazy. So instead of destroying your state intentionally and destroying your city intentionally with some hope that some utopia is going to come about, like some free-for-all where, there are no rules, there are no laws, and we all just, sit around and, pick daisies and, I don't know, look at each other. Why don't you just get your act together, get the business of the New York people done, and move on with your life? Just some humble advice. If you have any more advice for Tish James, feel free to weigh in the comments. We appreciate hearing from you. Thank you for watching Explain America.